Canada, the land of politeness, maple syrup, and peace, at least. That's what they want you to believe. But beneath this friendly image lies one of the darkest chapters in North American history, a systematic program that destroyed hundreds of thousands of lives, a tragedy that Canada tried to hide for over a century. This is the story they don't teach in schools, the story of Canada's residential schools. Welcome to Age of Stories. I'm Your Name, and today we're uncovering one of the most horrific government programs in modern history. Between 1831 and 1996, yes, 1996, the Canadian government operated a network of boarding schools designed to civilize Indigenous children. Over 150,000 Indigenous children were forcibly removed from their families and sent to these institutions. What happened there was nothing short of cultural genocide. In this video, you'll discover the true purpose of these schools, the horrors children endured, how Canada covered it up for decades, and the shocking discoveries made in 2021 that changed everything. This is a difficult story, but it's one that must be told. To understand this tragedy, we need to go back to the 1800s. When European settlers arrived in Canada, they encountered thriving Indigenous nations with their own languages, cultures, and ways of life. But the Canadian government saw these cultures as obstacles to colonization. They needed the land. They wanted assimilation. In 1876, the Indian Act was passed. This law gave the government complete control over Indigenous people's lives, where they could live, what they could do, who they could be. Duncan Campbell Scott, the Deputy Superintendent of Indian Affairs, said in 1920, "I want to get rid of the Indian problem. Our object is to continue until there is not a single Indian in Canada that has not been absorbed." This wasn't education. This was elimination. The first residential school opened in 1831. By the 1930s, there were over 130 schools across Canada run by Christian churches and funded by the government. Children as young as 4 years old were taken from their families, often by force. Parents who resisted were threatened with arrest. When children arrived at the schools, the first thing that happened was brutal. Their hair was cut, their traditional clothing burned, and they were forbidden from speaking their native languages. They were given new names, new identities. Everything that connected them to their families and cultures was systematically destroyed. But it got worse, much worse. Survivors report horrific abuse, physical beatings for speaking their language, starvation and malnutrition, medical experimentation, sexual abuse, solitary confinement, forced labor. One survivor, Phil Fontaine, described being strapped to a bed and beaten until he lost consciousness for speaking his native language. Another survivor, Chantal, said, "They told us our parents didn't love us, that our culture was evil, that we were savages who needed to be saved." Children died. Thousands of them. The death rate at these schools was astronomical. Tuberculosis, disease, malnutrition, and abuse killed thousands. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission estimates that at least 6,000 children died in these schools. But the real number is likely much higher. Many deaths were never recorded. And here's the horrific part. When children died, their families often weren't told. Bodies were buried in unmarked graves. No funerals, no ceremonies, just gone. The government and churches destroyed records, hid evidence, denied everything. Some newspapers reported the deaths at the time, but nothing changed. The schools continued operating for another century. May 2021, a discovery that shocked the world. Using ground-penetrating radar, investigators found the remains of 215 children buried at the site of the former Kamloops Indian residential school in British Columbia. The discovery made international headlines. Canada was forced to confront its past. Then more graves were found. Saskatchewan, 751 unmarked graves. British Columbia, 182 more. Manitoba, 104. The number keeps growing. Over 1,300 unmarked graves have been found so far, and dozens of schools haven't been searched yet. Across Canada, People left children's shoes on government buildings, thousands of them, a memorial to the children who never came home. The last residential school closed in 1996, just 30 years ago. That means survivors are still alive today. They're still dealing with the trauma, still fighting for justice. The effects continue. Indigenous communities face higher rates of poverty, addiction, suicide, and incarceration. The trauma passes from generation to generation. In 2008, the Canadian government finally apologized. In 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its findings, calling what happened cultural genocide. But apologies don't bring back the children. They don't heal the wounds. They don't restore the languages and cultures that were lost. Canada's residential school system operated for 165 years. Over 150,000 children were taken. At least 6,000 died. Countless more were traumatized, abused, and stripped of their identities. This wasn't ancient history. This happened in our lifetime. The last school closed when I was your age in 1996. Today, Canada is slowly beginning to acknowledge this dark chapter. Indigenous languages are being revitalized. Survivors are sharing their stories. The truth is finally coming to light. But there's still so much work to do. So many unmarked graves still to find. So many stories still to tell. This is the darkest secret in Canadian history. A secret that was hidden for over a century. A secret that changed North America forever. If you found this important, please share this video. Subscribe to Age of Stories for more histories they don't teach in schools. We post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, uncovering the mysteries and truths of American and Canadian history. Next, we're diving into Abraham Lincoln's secret weapon that won the Civil War. You won't want to miss it. If you want to learn more, I've linked resources in the description, including survivor testimonies and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's full report. Thank you for watching and for listening to these important stories.